I can't stay silent on Russ anymore. This needs to get out.
I can't stay silent on Russ anymore. This has to come out. No more playing nice. You heard that right. Stephen A. just called out the NBA's wildest free agent mystery, Russell Westbrook, and it's about time someone did. How does a former MVP and triple-double monster still not have a team? Today, I'm laying it all out. How Russ went from MVP madness to being branded too much for the league, and the quiet power moves keeping him locked out behind the scenes. But let's keep it real. This isn't just about basketball anymore. It's bigger, messier, and straight-up ridiculous. Wait till you hear how LeBron might be tangled in all of this. Stephen A. wasn't exaggerating one bit, because seriously, how is Russell Westbrook, of all people, still unsigned? It makes no sense. The man literally walked away from a $4 million Denver deal, betting that someone would want his fire.
I thought he had something guaranteed or something already in the books, like somebody's interested. For you to opt out, from what I heard, is that they were not planning on to play him at all this year, even behind certain guys that he should be above.
And now it's October, and the guy doesn't even have a locker or a jersey. He was supposed to be that spark. The veteran with heart, energy, and fire that every team says they need. But when Denver reportedly told him he'd barely touch the floor next season, he said, "Nah, I'm not built for that." He'd rather gamble on himself than rot on the bench. That's classic Russ. Prideful, relentless, maybe even stubborn. But that same energy made him a legend in the first place. Here's where it gets strange, though. Nobody called. Not one team. It's like the entire league suddenly decided he's too hot to handle, and there's no way that's all about basketball. You mean to tell me there isn't a single team that could use his intensity for even 15 minutes a night? Please. Something deeper is going on here. Something behind the scenes that's blacklisting one of the most electrifying players of this generation. And to grasp how wild that is, you've got to remember just how high Russell Westbrook once stood. Say what you want about him today, but at his peak, there was nobody like Russ. Back in OKC, he was a human storm in sneakers, playing like gravity didn't exist. Sure, KD and Harden did their thing, but Russ, he attacked every game like it owed him money. No breaks, no fear, no holding back, just pure chaos and passion. That 2016-17 MVP season still stands as one of the most jaw-dropping runs in NBA history. The man averaged a triple-double, not for a week, not for a month, for an entire season. Nobody had done that since Oscar Robertson in the 60s, and Russ smashed that record with 42 triple-doubles. Every night felt like a movie. Stats so wild you had to double-check they were real. And it wasn't just about numbers. It was the energy, the dunks, the roars, the pure emotion. Russ made basketball feel alive again. That "why not" spirit wasn't just a slogan, it was a whole lifestyle. He became more than an athlete. He was a walking statement, a reminder that passion still matters in this cold corporate league. He was that guy, showing up to arenas dressed like he just stepped off a Paris runway, then dropping 40 points fueled by pure rage and adrenaline. 1 hour he's flexing designer fits, the next he's breaking ankles and bringing high fashion right into NBA culture, long before tunnel fits were an Instagram obsession. Honestly, after Kobe retired, you could argue Russ was the only one who carried that real dog energy like it was a badge of honor. Fans couldn't get enough of him. And even the ones who claimed to hate him, they still tuned in just to see what chaos he'd bring next. He was unpredictable, explosive, sometimes messy, but always raw and real. That's what makes this fall so wild, because we're not talking about some bench warmer who had one lucky year. We're talking about a former MVP, a 9-time All-Star, a 2-time scoring champ, a man who literally carried OKC on his back when everyone else bailed out. So seeing him sitting unsigned now, it doesn't feel like decline, it feels like disrespect, like the league straight up forgot who they're dealing with. And that's where things get messy, because after OKC, the story stopped being about domination and started being about perception, the way he was seen, not how he played. The NBA shifted fast, and Russ got caught in the storm. He was still that same beast, but the league around him changed. Suddenly, it was all about efficiency charts, three-point percentages, and spacing models. Front offices were crunching numbers while Russ was out there living on instinct and chaos. The same fire that once made him unstoppable started being labeled hard to fit in. When he teamed up with Harden again in Houston, people thought it was about to be fireworks. Two former MVPs reunited, ready to shake the league. On paper, it looked unstoppable. But Houston was deep in that Morey ball experiment. Only threes or layups, no in-between. Russ was built for rhythm.
The things that you built your career off of and people fell in love with you about is the same thing it's your downfall right now.
Not algorithms. Still, there were moments when he looked sharp, like that stretch in early 2020 before the pandemic hit, where he was dropping nearly 30 a night. For a second, it felt like vintage Russ was back. But then the playoffs came, COVID struck, spacing issues wrecked the flow, and suddenly the whispers started again. Can you win with Russ? Then came Washington. Nobody expected anything special from that roster, but Russ turned it into a one-man show. He tied Oscar Robertson's all-time triple-double record and dragged the Wizards into the play-in with pure grit and heart. Even when the media turned on him, the man kept producing. But the headlines didn't care about that. All they wanted to talk about were bad contracts, declining efficiency, and fit problems. It was like people forgot the results and only saw the flaws. And then, the Lakers era. That was supposed to be the comeback story. LeBron, AD, and Russ sounded like a cheat code.
That, hey, man, Russ got to be careful now. The rumor is around the league word around the league is that if he don't be careful, temper it down, he might find himself out the league. Okay?
But from day one, the chemistry was off. The fit just didn't click. And in LA, every mistake becomes a headline. Every missed shot turned into a meme. Every turnover became a trending topic. People stopped watching him play and started watching him fail. The narrative flipped from unstoppable energy to unwanted problem, even when Russ tried to humble himself, saying he'd do whatever the team needed, but the story was already written before the first game tipped off. When he got traded to the Clippers, it finally felt like he could breathe again. Like peace was possible at last. The fit in LA finally looked smoother. Russ was playing unselfishly, locking in on defense, and for the first time in years, he actually looked happy again. But by that point, the public had already made up its mind. He wasn't Russell Westbrook, MVP anymore. He was Russell Westbrook role player. Just like that, the league had rebranded him. That's how fast the NBA moves. 1 minute you're the face of a franchise, the next you're treated like a supporting act. Analytics had taken over, rewarding quiet efficiency instead of loud, fiery energy. And players like Russ, who poured heart and soul into every possession, suddenly became the outsiders. Teams stopped seeing that passion as leadership and started treating it like a liability. Imagine that. The same fire that used to light up arenas now looked too risky on a scouting report. But here's where things get wild. That one moment that was supposed to be his fresh start, the one shot to rewrite everything, didn't just fizzle out, it flipped on him. And that's where the Denver story begins. When rumors started swirling that the defending champs wanted Westbrook, fans lost it. It felt like the perfect comeback. A veteran warrior joining the most unselfish team-first squad in the league. The narrative wrote itself. Redemption, chemistry, and a second chance at legacy. People thought, finally, no drama, no bad fit headlines, just pure basketball. It sounded perfect. But that hope didn't last long. Reports leaked that Denver only wanted him for a deep bench role, like barely touch the floor level. No closing minutes, no spotlight, no chance to shine. Basically, they wanted him to mentor young guys, stay ready, and clap from the sidelines. Sounds respectful, right? Until you remember who we're talking about. Russell freaking Westbrook, the guy who once played through torn ligaments because his team needed him to bring the energy. So when word broke that he opted out, people were stunned. But if you really know Russ, it made total sense. It was never about money or ego. It was about pride, man.
Narratives start to kick in, right? Conversations around the league. It's a copycat league. So if I hit you, Monica, say, yo, Monica, man, Russ lost his step going left.
About not sitting quietly in a cage while others decide when you're allowed to roar. Russ has never been that vibes and clipboard veteran. He's wired to play, to fight, to matter, and that's what makes this whole thing so hard to watch. You've got a dude who still hits the gym at 6 a.m., who's never cheated the game, who's still built like a machine. And yet, the league acts like he's radioactive. It's this weird paradox. Every team says they want dogs, but when a real one walks in,
it also, does that send a message to other GMs of like, hey, he had a really good situation, this is what we need him for, and he opted out?
Everyone starts clutching their analytics spreadsheets like it's a holy text. It's almost like effort stopped being valuable once numbers started running the league. But here's the truth. No stat, no algorithm, no spreadsheet can measure what Russ brings when he's unleashed. Maybe that's why this whole situation feels so wrong, because let's be real. Why isn't anyone signing Russell Westbrook? The man hasn't forgotten how to hoop. He's healthy, still in shape, and still one of the hardest working guys in any locker room. But once front offices start running the numbers, things get tricky fast. The first word they throw out? Fit. That's the NBA's polite way of saying,
yeah, he's one of the best teammates I've ever had.
We like you, but we don't know where to put you. Teams want shooters who can stretch the floor, guards who don't need the ball, players who just blend in quietly. But Russ, he's the opposite of quiet. He dominates the rock, lives in the paint, and has never pretended to be Steph Curry. It's not that he can't adapt, it's that teams don't want to bend their system for him anymore. They'd rather take a guy who stands in the corner and hits open threes than a former MVP who still believes in going full speed, heart first, and that's the tragedy of it all. In a league that claims to love passion, it's the passionate ones who end up on the sidelines.
I'm a fan of Russ.
Okay.
He's taking a lot of heat right now.
Then comes the money talk. And this is where things start getting real. Even if Russ is totally down to take a smaller deal, front offices start sweating bullets over cap space, rotations, and locker room balance. Not because he's some diva or locker room problem. The Clippers players literally called him the best teammate they'd ever had. But in the NBA, perception rules everything. The second something goes sideways, guess who gets blamed first? Yup, Russell Westbrook. That's what people around the league now call the narrative tax. You're not just signing a player, you're signing the conversation that comes with him. Every camera zooms in when he's benched. Every missed shot turns into a trending hashtag, and every anonymous exec suddenly leaks a hot take to ESPN. Even Channing Frye said it straight. Front offices today are obsessed with control. They want clean storylines, tidy rotations, and numbers that make sense on spreadsheets. But Westbrook? He doesn't fit into a formula. He's emotional, unpredictable, passionate, and unfiltered. The exact reasons fans love him and execs panic. So yeah, the market says he's too much. But let's be real. What's really too much here? His fire or the league's obsession with staying safe and robotic? And here's the twist that nobody talks about. The people who actually share a locker room with Westbrook? They don't sound anything like the analyst or front office suits. They sound like they're describing a warrior. Paul George has said it multiple times. Russ had chemistry with everybody. PG literally called him one of the best teammates he's ever had. Austin Reeves said the exact same thing after their time together with the Lakers. He said Russ was the realest dude in the room. You can't fake that kind of respect, man. These aren't media sound bites. These are players who've gone to battle with him night after night, seen him in the trenches, not just highlight reels or box scores. And get this, even Kevin Durant, the guy the world thought hated Russ after that OKC fallout, went on record calling him a legend. KD said Russ absolutely deserves to be in the league right now. That's rare. Think about it. These two had one of the most dramatic teammate breakups in NBA history, and even he refuses to disrespect Russ's legacy. That says everything. Then there's Shaq, the big fella himself. And you know Shaq doesn't sugarcoat anything. On his podcast, he flat out praised Russ for the way he plays, the passion, the fire, the never quit mentality. He said even if the numbers dip, that intensity never fades. And when someone like Shaq, who's seen every kind of superstar ego imaginable, calls you one of his favorites, that speaks volumes.
Bronny got a contract. and Russell Westbrook gets thrown out the door. That's the reality.
What makes all this even more telling is who hasn't spoken. LeBron and Curry. Total silence. And it's not shade, it's strategic. In today's NBA, where superstar words can shift careers overnight, one sentence from either of them could flip the entire narrative. Yet both of them stay quiet, letting Russ's name float through the air like a secret everyone's too scared to say out loud. It's eerie, almost symbolic, like the league knows he still belongs, but no one wants to be the first to say it. Everyone's too cautious to touch him. The players who've shared the floor with Russ swear he's one of the realest out there. But the people who control the narrative, they keep their distance like he's radioactive. And that's when it really hits you. This stopped being about basketball a long time ago. Russ has always been wired different. You can see it in how he moves, how he speaks, how he carries himself. Every drive, every roar, every stare after a dunk feels personal, like a lifetime of fight bottled into one moment. This is a man who's been proving himself since day one. A man who lost his best friend in high school and promised to make it for both of them. That "why not" slogan. It's not marketing, it's survival. It's his way of saying, I refuse to quit, no matter what. But when you've spent 15 years being the alpha, being the guy, it's brutal to hear teams say, sit on the bench, play 10 minutes, and smile for the cameras. The wild part? The same energy that made him a global superstar is now the reason teams are scared off. The media sees fire and calls it arrogance. Passion gets labeled ego. Like, bro, have we forgotten who we're talking about? This is the same dude who averaged a triple-double for 3 straight seasons. You can see it on his face sometimes in interviews. He stays calm, stays respectful, but behind those eyes, you can feel it. That quiet frustration, that pride, that disbelief that a man who gave everything to this league suddenly gets treated like he's disposable. And that's what makes you wonder, would any other Hall of Fame level player ever be treated like this? Russ might be the loudest example, but he's not the only one. Across the NBA, other veterans are sitting in that same uncomfortable silence. Look at the current free agent market. Names like Al Horford, still unsigned for months. All respected vets, sure. All solid players. But let's be honest, none of them changed the game the way Russ did. None of them averaged triple-doubles across multiple seasons. None of them carried the fire that turned chaos into legacy. And yet somehow, those guys keep landing short-term deals, training camp invites, veteran presence roles, while Russell freaking Westbrook can't even get a minimum contract. Make it make sense. Because if it was really about performance, leadership, or locker room energy, Russ would have been signed the second free agency opened. So clearly, this isn't just about stats or shooting percentages. There's something deeper, something political, something unspoken behind the curtain. You can feel it when execs dodge his name in interviews, when reporters change the subject mid-question. It's like there's a silent rule. Don't touch the Westbrook topic too directly. And that's when things get really crazy. Because suddenly, Stephen A. Smith, the same guy who roasted Russ for years on national TV, is now out here defending him. Yeah, you heard that right. Even Stephen A. flipped the script. And when that happens, you know something's off. He said exactly what millions were thinking, but too scared to say out loud. Wait, Bronny James gets a contract and Russell Westbrook's out the door? That's the reality check that hit like a slap. On one hand, you've got Bronny, a kid who averaged 4 points a game in college, barely made a dent, and got drafted mainly because of his last name. On the other hand, you've got a former MVP, a walking highlight reel, a man who gave his body and soul to this league. And he's sitting at home, unsigned, like his career doesn't matter. And the moment that really sums it all up? That confrontation. That viral moment. When Stephen A. simply said what everyone already knew. Bronny can't play. LeBron didn't hesitate to clap back, defending his son without blinking. And hey, that's a father's love. No one's knocking that. But it shows how deep the politics go. When your dad's LeBron James, the rules bend. The NBA moves differently for certain names. Meanwhile, Russ, who earned everything the hard way, gets treated like a problem to avoid. That's the real double standard right there. And it's why this story cuts deeper than sports. Because for the first time, the loudest man in basketball is being silenced not by age, not by injuries, but by an image the league created, and no one's brave enough to challenge. Meanwhile, think about Russ for a second. The same guy who once stood shoulder to shoulder with LeBron now can't even get a courtesy call from the league's biggest superstar. That right there is the power play no one wants to admit. The NBA isn't just about buckets, rebounds, or highlight reels anymore. It's political now, built on influence, alliances, and who controls the spotlight. And if we're keeping it 100, LeBron James is the blueprint for that power. Through his agency connections, especially Clutch Sports, and his global influence, Bron can open doors for his son, create lanes for his friends, shift public narratives, and quietly decide who gets opportunities and who doesn't. Now, look at Russell Westbrook. For years, he was inside that elite circle, playing next to LeBron, being a household name, and standing tall as one of the fiercest competitors alive. But now, Russ is on the outside looking in, ready to play, still grinding harder than most, but the influence that once backed him up has gone silent. People keep saying he's not a fit or his game's declined. But come on, we've seen this story before. Derrick Rose went from MVP to afterthought, then fought his way back and became a key piece for multiple contenders. Dwight Howard took endless criticism, got clowned online, then came back and earned his ring in LA. Even Carmelo Anthony, one of the most polarizing players of his generation, was blackballed, then returned, dropped buckets, and made fans remember his greatness. So here's the question everyone's afraid to ask. If D. Rose, Dwight, and Melo all got their second chances, why can't Russ? Is it really about fit? Or is it about perception, politics, and ego? Maybe it's because he's no longer inside the NBA's inner circle of power. Because let's be honest, Russ isn't a broken player. He's still explosive, still built like a tank, and still one of the most competitive men you'll ever meet. The difference now is fear. Teams are terrified of narrative risk, locker room noise, and media backlash. But that's crazy when you think about it. We've seen tons of vets come in with baggage and prove doubters wrong. So why single out Russ? Why act like passion is a problem now? If the NBA won't open its doors, what's next for him? Believe it or not, the world still has options. The Chinese Basketball Association's got interest. Overseas markets would love to pay top dollar for a legend like him. Even the G League could be a proving ground. Smaller stage, yeah, but still a platform to remind everyone that Russ's fire never burned out. But here's the kicker. Russ isn't any player. He's a former MVP, a walking storm, the triple-double king. His entire identity screams top-tier competition. So taking a step down, even for a minute, would feel like admitting the league left him behind. And that would sting deep. History shows, though, he's not the first star to face this crossroads. Melo, Rose, Dwight, they all had to swallow pride and fight their way back, either by leaving the league or embracing smaller roles to keep their careers alive. Could Russ take a prove-it deal in the NBA? Yeah, he absolutely could. Would it feel fair? Probably not. But life doesn't play fair, especially not in this business. That's why if Russ wants this next chapter to be one he controls, he's got to play it strategically. He needs the right setup, not just any team desperate for points, but a contender that truly values veteran leadership, a defensive core that can cover his weaknesses while letting him bring the chaos, the electricity, and that trademark "why not" fire that only he delivers. And here's the part most people forget. PR matters too. If Russ goes public with workouts, shows his grind, drops clips of him mentoring young guys, and reminds the world that he's still locked in, it changes everything. Because perception built this wall, and perception can tear it down too. If he plays this right, the same league that sidelined him could end up proving just how wrong they were. Redemption isn't just a dream. It's right there, waiting to be taken. And if Russ pulls it off, nobody, and I mean nobody, is ever going to forget it. So let me ask you this. If you were in Russ's shoes, would you take the easy route, or would you fight like a man who's never known anything but intensity? Because trust me, he's not done yet. The next chapter could be the wildest one of his entire career. If you want to see how this story unfolds, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe, share, and drop a comment below. Turn on your notifications, because whether you love him or hate him, you've never seen anything like what's coming next for Russell Westbrook. See you on the next one.